Hey, so here's my little story. Hey, I wrote this wrote my story for class. I was just crying through it. Um, and I remember in high school, just feeling really isolated. Um, I wasn't out as trans. I wasn't out as like a lesbian. I wasn't out as any queer thing. The only thing that I was allowed to be was a straight woman, and so I spent my time studying women and trying to hold myself in ways that wouldn't give off any radar that I was different or that I was queer. And so there was just a lot of work put into hiding who I was. I got born again when I was 14 years old, and I got pretty excited about God. God was pretty cool. Then I do remember like going to the Goodwill, and I grabbed all the Christian books. But they were like the creepy kind of Christian books that you don't want to buy. It was just all this stuff about, I don't know. It's just like during that time, it was in the 90s. There was just such a capitalization on this whole sin doctrine of like, if you want to be close to God, then you got to make sure that you're not sinning, because if you sin, then it separates you and God. So I was just hyper vigilant about the possibility of being separated from God. It was like it was just, I don't even know how could I possibly open up to God during that time when I was constantly like this. God wasn't safe to me. He wasn't safe for me back then. God wanted me to be somebody else, and I wasn't. But I was really thrilled. Like there's times where I felt connected with God, and I felt this love and this presence, and it was just so beautiful. And I wanted that, and I would have done anything to keep it. And so like God became my everything. Yeah, I was 14 years old, and I mean, I still feel like, yeah, my faith with God is still my most important favorite thing in my life. But I don't, not to the point that I'm going to be somebody else for God, right? Like, hopefully God and I can work together and come to like some conclusions, and not to be a bully. Having to be somebody that I'm not to please God, that's a bully. That's a bully God, right? That's a God that gives off red flags that you don't want to serve. Okay, so that was my high school years, was being a part of a Christian culture like that, where God was like the bully. And I remember telling my mom that I had struggles with same-sex attraction, and she didn't even really give much of a response. She was just quiet, and she's like, well, it's just a struggle, and so you repented of it, so we don't really need to talk about it anymore. And so she didn't tell my dad. This was in the beginning, and I I don't know, I just felt like this dirty little secret. I'm like, I wish we could have, as a family, like, struggled together, right? Like, so many hours, so many years that I spent just talking to God and wrestling with my faith and my sexuality. It would have been cool to, like, have my mom, dad, and my brother wrestling with me. But instead, I felt like I was just, like a secret, you know? It was just like, Mom, like, you can tell Dad he's your husband. We shouldn't keep this from him. This is a big thing, right? And she's like, no. I think maybe she was afraid that he couldn't have handled it. It was the 90s. I don't know. I just know like my dad responded when I came out as a lesbian, and when I came out as a trans man. He was the first to respond. His response was actually I kind of liked his response better than my mom's, but it wasn't any better than my mom's, and they're both still not in my life. So anyways, I remember feeling really alone in high school. There was nobody that was out queer in high school. There's just a bunch of straight cis people, supposedly. And we just had to do as best as we could. So we found each other. We found each other on AOL, which was like the style up back then. You had to pay $3 an hour to talk to people on it. And so I remember always, finding some girls to talk to, chat them up, and I would just feel so guilty about it. And I would have these dreams about going to hell. And I would wake up in this panic of like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to not be attracted to women the rest of my life, or not be queer. It was like this dark cloud that you just couldn't see. That's how my future felt. And I didn't see it as like, I saw it as like God was condemning homosexuality, right? He was condemning the queers. There's like that scripture about like that even when something's in your heart, it's wrong. So like, being queer is in my heart. It's in my anatomy. It's a part of who I was, and I didn't know how to just shake it off and just get rid of it. It wasn't getting rid of, and so this was my perspective back then, and I had a Christian community that backed it up. I bought all the whole books on ex-gay. Anyways, so I try really hard, but then I go back to these chat rooms and chat up girls, and I really wish that I could have been. I wish I could have been like all the other guys at school who were able to go have girlfriends in person, who were able to like talk about their gender and able to not be ashamed of their romantic feelings for women, who just could have just played with the guys and just wrestled. And instead I spent my high school years a lot of the time in my room reading my Bible, trying to sort this thing out with God, while my mom and dad were really busy working. I know that they listened to a lot of Joyce Meyer tapes and all of that, but as for my struggle, and I was pretty alone with it. I think my mom tried her best. I really do. There wasn't much she could have offered me. I think she tried her best. She was scared shitless. I mean, if you're queer in the 90s, like, you're fucked. But I mean, there's people coming out in the 90s. Well, Ellen was, and I couldn't watch her though, because if I watched her, I'd get dirty and all that. It felt dirty enough as it was. Anyways, I remember just wanting to die in high school, being like, well, Jesus is gonna send me to hell anyways. I'm trying really hard. I feel resentful that I had to like spend so many years all repressed and all of that. If you're watching this and you feel like God's sending you to hell because you're queer, it's not true. Okay. I remember just wanting to know, could I still have a relationship with Jesus and be gay? Yeah, You can. If I go back, I tell myself, hey, you know what? You can have both. You don't have to choose. Anyways, that's my story. I'm running out of batteries.